Have you ever said something, and as the words left your mouth, you felt it? Regret? Not because it was offensive, not even because it was wrong, but because it made you sound less grounded, less thoughtful, less wise than you intended. We've all been there, in conversations, debates, meetings, and moments with people we care about. One careless phrase, and suddenly the room feels colder. Not because others changed, but because your words did. In the age of social media and instant replies, we've learned to speak fast, to have a take, to respond, to win. But we've forgotten how to listen, how to pause, how to speak from stillness. Here's the truth. Intelligent people aren't the ones who speak the most. They're the ones who speak with intention. They understand that words are tools, and once released, they can't be retrieved. They either build bridges or burn them, reveal thought or expose insecurity. So today we explore 6 things a truly intelligent person never says. Not because they're afraid of judgment, but because they've mastered discernment. Because they know the smartest words are often the ones left unsaid. Rooted in the wisdom of Stoic philosophy, this is not just a guide to speech. It's a reflection of how you live, think, and respond in a world that rarely gives you time to breathe. And if you can master this, not just what to say, but what to never say, you won't just sound intelligent. You'll become someone worth listening to. Let's begin. Let's begin with the first thing an intelligent person never says. I already know that. On the surface, it sounds harmless, maybe even confident. But underneath, it often hides the opposite. This phrase doesn't open minds. It closes doors. Not just for the other person, but for you. It kills curiosity. It shuts down learning. And worst of all, it turns connection into competition. Picture this. You're in a room with someone sharing a thought. Maybe it's a lesson, a story, a perspective they find meaningful. They speak with energy, vulnerability, perhaps even hope. And before they finish, you cut in. Yeah, I know that already. It might seem efficient, director, but what they hear is dismissal. What they feel is rejection. And what you've just lost is trust. Not because the idea wasn't valid, but because the way you responded made it about you. Epictetus once said, "It is impossible to learn that which you think you already know." Let that settle, because the truth is, every idea, even a familiar one, looks different when it comes from a different person at a different time through a different lens. The intelligent mind knows this. It doesn't crave being right. It craves depth. It doesn't flex what it knows. It stretches into what it might have missed. Here's a subtle shift that changes everything. Instead of saying, "I already know that," try, "That's an interesting way to see it. What made you think of that?" One is a wall, the other is a window. This isn't just about courtesy, it's about identity. Because every time you choose humility over pride, you become someone people want to talk to. Someone others feel safe around. Someone open, not just informed. Think of it this way, knowledge is like light. But if you keep aiming it at yourself, trying to shine brighter than others, you create glare, not warmth. People squint, turn away, disconnect. But if you redirect that light, share it, soften it, it becomes guidance, illumination, a path others can walk with you. That's what intelligence looks like in conversation. It listens more than it speaks. It asks more than it answers. It holds space rather than filling it. Because truly intelligent people aren't obsessed with being the smartest in the room. They're obsessed with becoming better, quietly, consistently, patiently. Even if that means learning something they've heard before from someone they didn't expect. So the next time someone offers you a thought you think you already know, pause. Don't rush to reply. Don't rush to prove. Instead, ask yourself, what could I still learn from this? What part of this have I overlooked? How would a wiser version of me respond? And in that moment, you step out of the trap of ego and into the practice of real wisdom. Remember, "I already know that" is the phrase of someone protecting an image. But I'm open to learning more. That's the voice of someone building a life. Even if you know something in theory, have you lived it in full? Have you seen it fail? Seen it succeed? Have you understood it from someone else's pain, someone else's joy, someone else's timing? Because knowledge isn't just what enters your mind, it's what shapes your behavior. And if your response to others shuts down their willingness to speak, you're not applying what you know, you're avoiding what you don't. Let's not forget, the smartest minds in history, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, never claimed to know it all. They wrote to remind themselves, to stay humble, to listen again, to reread, relearn, re-reflect. So maybe the most intelligent response you can give when someone shares something you've already heard is a simple nod, a thoughtful pause, and a question that invites the conversation to go deeper, not stop. Because in a world obsessed with answers, the wisest among us stay committed to asking better questions. Let's move to the second phrase. An intelligent person never says, "That's just who I am." It may sound like honesty, like someone accepting themselves, but most of the time, it's not acceptance. It's avoidance. It's not a declaration of identity. It's a defense against growth. This phrase appears when we feel exposed, when someone gives us feedback we're not ready to hear, when our behavior hurts someone and we don't want to look at it. So instead, we wrap ourselves in this shield. That's just who I am. It seems solid, but it's hollow. Because the moment you declare your character is fixed, you stop evolving. And intelligent people never make that mistake. Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." Not harsh, not cruel, but accountable. What he meant was this: don't use your past as an excuse to stay the same. Don't turn your flaws into a brand. Let's make this real. Imagine someone who always interrupts others in conversations. Every time they're told they cut people off, they say, "Yeah, I know, but that's just how I've always been." It's familiar, it's honest, but is it intelligent? Now imagine someone who responds differently. "Thanks for pointing that out. I wasn't aware. I'm working on that." That one sentence, humble, self-aware, forward-looking, carries more intelligence than any polished resume. Why? Because intelligence isn't just what you know. It's what you're willing to undo in yourself. It's being a student of your own habits, your own blind spots, your own patterns of harm, especially the quiet ones. Here's the Stoic truth. Character isn't marble, it's clay. It's shaped daily by what we tolerate in ourselves and what we choose to transform. That's why the phrase, "That's just who I am," is so dangerous. It shuts the door before the conversation even begins. It says, "I'm no longer listening. I've decided I can't change. So don't bother." But the most intelligent people never stop questioning themselves, not in a self-destructive way, but in a self-developing way. They know they're not a finished product. They're a process, refined through intention, trial, humility. And that refinement, it starts with language. Instead of saying, "That's just who I am," say, "That's something I've done before, but it doesn't have to define me." That shift matters because words are seeds. And when you speak from limitation, you grow more limitation. But when you speak from possibility, even softly, you plant new roots. Now you might be wondering, but what if it really is part of my personality? Shouldn't I stay authentic? Yes, of course, but authenticity isn't the same as immovability. Being true to yourself doesn't mean defending every default. It means being honest about what's working and what's not, and then having the courage to update. The same way you upgrade your phone, your operating system, your strategy at work, you can upgrade how you show up in the world. And those who refuse, they're not staying true, they're staying stuck. Let's go deeper. In the Stoic view, virtue, not personality, is the highest good. Who you are today is just the current shape of your habits. Who you could become tomorrow depends on what you're willing to let go of. So next time you feel the urge to say, "That's just who I am," pause and ask yourself, is this a truth or just a habit I've defended for too long? Is this trait helping me build trust, strength, clarity, or is it sabotaging it? If I were mentoring someone I loved, would I encourage them to keep this trait? And then, be bold enough to answer honestly. Remember, intelligent people don't build identities out of unexamined patterns. They build character through conscious revision. They're not afraid to say, that version of me helped me survive, but this version will help me lead. Because the mind that can outgrow its own limitations is the one that becomes unstoppable. Let's move to the third thing. An intelligent person never says, "It's not my fault." Now let's be honest. This phrase is tempting. It's quick, clean, emotionally satisfying. When things go wrong, our instincts search for a target. Someone, something, anything, as long as it's not us. But here's what makes this phrase so dangerous. It feels like relief, but it creates weakness. It may protect your ego in the short term, but it poisons your credibility in the long run. The Stoics had a very different view. Epictetus taught, events don't hurt us, our judgment about them does. And Marcus Aurelius added, when you are offended at any man's fault, turn to yourself and study your own failings. Why? Because intelligent people don't chase blame. They claim ownership, not as punishment, but as power. Let's ground this in a real-life moment. Picture a team leader whose project just failed. He walks into the debrief and says, look, this wasn't my fault. The deadline was unrealistic, the team didn't deliver, and the client changed their mind 3 times. All of that may be true, but here's what his team hears. I take no responsibility. Now picture a different leader, same situation. She walks in and says, here's where I could have stepped in sooner. I missed the early warning signs. Next time I'll build more buffer into the plan and clarify expectations earlier. Same facts, different mindset, and a completely different emotional impact. Because what sounds like weakness, admitting fault, is actually strength. Intelligent people know this. Blame is reactive. Ownership is intentional. Blame inflates the ego. Ownership expands the mind. And when something goes wrong, the question isn't, whose fault is it? It's, what's within my control to make this better next time? That's not guilt, that's growth. Let's zoom in on the psychology of blame. Blame is comfortable because it distances us from discomfort. But that comfort is an illusion. Because every time you say, it's not my fault, you reinforce something dangerous. That you are a passive observer in your own life. That you have no agency. That you are reactive, not responsible. And over time, people pick up on that. They stop trusting you. They stop promoting you. They stop relying on you in moments that matter, because deep down they know you won't own the outcome. And ironically, so do you. Because even when the words, it's not my fault, feel justified, you know what they're really doing is shrinking you. Here's the Stoic shift. Instead of asking, whose fault is this? Ask, where is my influence hiding in this mess? Maybe you didn't cause the problem, but maybe you ignored the warning signs. Maybe you stayed silent. Maybe you rushed when you should have paused. Maybe you let fear or convenience make the decision for you. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Because every time you locate your responsibility, no matter how small, you locate your power. This is what Stoics mean when they talk about the dichotomy of control. You don't control the storm, but you control how you sail. And blame? Blame makes you throw your hands up during the storm and yell at the sky. Responsibility? It makes you grab the wheel. And intelligent people, real leaders of their own life, they grab the wheel. Let me give you a phrase to carry with you. It may not be my fault, but it is my responsibility. That sentence will transform how people see you, but more importantly, it will transform how you see yourself. Because the moment you stop blaming, you start building. You build trust. You build respect. You build internal strength, not because you're perfect, but because you're present. And presence in Stoicism is the birthplace of all clarity. So next time something falls apart, big or small, before you reach for the easy out, stop. Ask yourself, what part of this could I own? What could I have done differently, even slightly? How can I lead, even in the aftermath? Because it's not about fault, it's about future, and blame never builds a better one. Let's move to the fourth thing. An intelligent person never says, they're just stupid. It might be said out of frustration. Maybe someone made a mistake, said something uninformed, reacted irrationally, and you, feeling sharper or more experienced, blurt it out or think it quietly with a shake of the head. They're just stupid. But here's the problem. That sentence doesn't describe them. It describes you in that moment. Because this phrase at its core is not a judgment of intelligence. It's a reflection of your own impatience, your ego, your unwillingness to understand complexity. Marcus Aurelius warned us, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself what fault of mine resembles theirs. Why? Because intelligent people know something that insecure people don't. Labeling others doesn't make you wiser, it just makes you smaller. Let's look deeper. The moment you call someone stupid, you stop seeing them. You reduce them to one word, one flaw, one moment. And once you've labeled someone, you've decided there's nothing left to learn from them. You've chosen the shortcut, dismissal instead of curiosity, contempt instead of compassion. And that shortcut is a dead end. Let's ground this in a real story. A manager once told me about a new hire on her team who kept missing deadlines. He asked repetitive questions. He fumbled through simple tasks. The team whispered behind his back. The word stupid was used more than once. But this manager, she paused. Instead of joining the chorus, she asked, "What am I not seeing here?" She sat down with him and discovered something unexpected. English wasn't his first language. He had come from an entirely different work culture, and most importantly, no one had properly trained him. What looked like stupidity was simply confusion, miscommunication, and fear. Weeks later, with clarity and support, this slow learner became the most consistent contributor on her team. That's what happens when you replace labels with listening. The Stoics teach us that the wise person isn't easily offended. They don't rush to judge, because they understand the moment you elevate yourself by demeaning another, you've left the path of wisdom and entered the realm of vanity. Here's the hard truth. Calling someone stupid usually has less to do with their intellect and more to do with your frustration threshold. The lower it is, the faster you'll insult someone. The faster you insult, the less you'll grow. Because you can't grow from someone you've already decided has nothing to offer. Let's be clear. This isn't about tolerating toxic behavior. It's about not assuming moral or intellectual superiority just because someone thinks or acts differently than you. Intelligent people are slow to insult. They don't seek superiority. They seek understanding. Even when disagreement is sharp, even when mistakes are obvious, they ask, what's driving this behavior? What does this person fear? What blind spot might I have that resembles theirs? These questions don't make you weak. They make you deep. Because anyone can roll their eyes and say they're dumb. But it takes discipline to ask, what might I not yet understand? There's also a hidden danger in using this phrase habitually. When you speak about others with contempt, you teach your brain to scan for inferiority. You train yourself to spot flaws instead of potential. And slowly, without noticing, you become the kind of person others hide from. Not because you're smart, but because you make them feel small. And here's the paradox. The more you shame others for not knowing, the less they'll come to you when they want to know. True intelligence creates safety. People feel safe to ask, safe to grow, safe to be seen as imperfect around you without fear of being judged. And in that environment, everyone, including you, grows faster. So what do intelligent people say instead? When someone makes a mistake, instead of, they're just stupid, try, maybe they haven't learned that yet. That didn't land well. Let's figure out why. There's a gap here. Can I help fill it? These responses don't deny the problem, but they protect the person. And in doing so, they protect your character. Because what you say about others echoes louder than what you say about yourself. Let's leave this section with a final Stoic idea. The best revenge, wrote Marcus Aurelius, is to not be like your enemy. When someone frustrates you, disappoints you, or seems foolish, resist the pull to become cruel. Choose clarity over contempt. Choose empathy over ego. Choose leadership over labeling, because anyone can insult, but only the truly intelligent elevate. The fifth thing an intelligent person never says, at least not with meaning, is this. Whatever. 2 syllables. Quiet. Casual. Shrug-worthy. But beneath its simplicity lies a dangerous undercurrent: detachment, dismissal, and emotional cowardice. At first glance, it feels harmless. It's the verbal equivalent of walking away with your hands up. No fight, no fuss, just let it go, right? But let's be honest, most of the time, whatever doesn't mean peace. It means avoidance. It means, I'm too uncomfortable to care. I don't want to deal with this. Your feelings aren't worth my energy. It's not surrender, it's silent sabotage. Especially in relationships, personal or professional, whatever can be toxic. Because it doesn't solve the tension, it mutes it. It pushes discomfort under the rug until the rug becomes a mountain. Now here's what makes it deceptive. Whatever gives the illusion of being calm, mature, non-reactive. But in truth, it's often the opposite. It's a refusal to engage, to feel, to understand, to own your part. And in Stoic philosophy, that's not strength, that's fear in disguise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." That means having the discipline to stay present, even when it's uncomfortable, to remain open, even when you'd rather shut down, to keep your words aligned with your values, even when silence feels easier. Now, this might feel strange because Stoics are often misrepresented as cold or emotionally detached. But true Stoicism isn't about emotional distance. It's about emotional responsibility. Stoicism doesn't tell you to feel nothing. It tells you to feel the right things for the right reasons with measured response. And whatever, it's not measured, it's evasive. It says, I don't care, even when you actually do, but you're too proud or too hurt to admit it. Let's look at this in real life. Imagine a couple in an argument. One says, "You've been distant lately. I don't feel like you're really here anymore." And the other responds, eyes down, voice cold, "Whatever." What happens in that moment? Not resolution, not clarity, just emotional exile. The person speaking is no longer with the other. They've emotionally left the room while still standing inside it. This is how relationships decay, not always through screaming matches, but through quiet exits like, "Whatever." The same applies at work. A colleague shares an idea. You don't like it. Instead of offering thoughtful feedback, you respond, "Yeah, whatever you think." Again, you've avoided confrontation, but at the cost of connection, of growth, of mutual respect. Here's the truth. Intelligent people don't hide behind apathy. They practice disciplined engagement. They say, "I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure I agree, but let's explore it further." Or, "I'm not ready to respond yet. Can I take a moment and come back to this?" These phrases don't avoid tension. They hold it with maturity. They create space, not silence. Let's revisit Stoic thinking here. Epictetus taught, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. But listening doesn't mean disappearing, and responding doesn't mean dominating. It means staying in the room, mentally, emotionally, morally, even when the easy way out is a cold whatever. So what should you say instead? Try this. "I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. Can we revisit this when I've had time to reflect?" Or, "This matters to me, but I need space to process it without reacting impulsively." These phrases aren't just more thoughtful. They build trust. They say, I care about this, and I care enough to respond with clarity, not reaction. And that's the essence of intelligence, presence with purpose. It's easy to detach. It's harder and far more powerful to stay emotionally engaged with dignity. Because here's the quiet damage of whatever. It leaves others feeling small, unseen, like their concerns are weightless. And eventually people stop bringing you their truth. Not because they're fine, but because they've learned you won't hold it with care. The intelligent person knows every word, no matter how brief, carries weight. And sometimes the words we choose when we're most exhausted are the ones people remember longest. So choose intentionally. Replace passive withdrawal with conscious delay. Replace sarcasm with sincerity. Replace whatever with, I need a moment, but I will return. Because emotional distance may feel safe, but emotional integrity builds legacies. Let's turn to the final phrase on our list. The one that slips out of mouths so casually it hardly gets questioned. I don't have time. At first glance, it sounds reasonable, even responsible. After all, we're busy, overloaded, booked, right? But if we're being honest, truly honest, I don't have time is rarely about time. It's about priority, about what we're willing to value and what we silently choose to neglect. And that's why intelligent people are careful with this phrase. Because they know every time you say, I don't have time, what you're really saying is, this isn't important enough to make room for. Let that land, because time, as the Stoics remind us, is the one resource we never get back. And yet, ironically, it's the one we waste most freely. Seneca wrote, people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they're wasteful, though no one has the right to be. Let's sit with that. We lock our doors, we protect our money, we track our steps, our macros, our investments. But when it comes to our hours, we give them away without pause, to distractions, to mindless scrolling, to things that don't nourish our body, our soul, or our future. And then we say, I don't have time for the book we wanted to read, for the call we've been meaning to make, for the goal we keep pushing to next month. Here's a brutal truth. The phrase, I don't have time, often hides fear. Fear of change, fear of failure, fear of facing the truth that we've chosen comfort over progress. Let's go deeper. Imagine this. Someone says, I don't have time to work out, but they somehow manage 3 hours of Netflix that week. Someone says, I don't have time to journal, but they've had time to check social media 47 times today. We're not judging, we're noticing. Because intelligent people aren't perfect with time, but they are brutally honest with it. They don't blame the calendar. They examine their choices because here's what they know. Time doesn't disappear, it gets spent, and you're the one spending it. So what do they say instead of, I don't have time? They say, that hasn't been a priority. I've been choosing something else. I haven't created space for that yet. These aren't just more accurate, they're more empowering. Because the moment you replace I don't have time with I haven't prioritized this, you regain agency. You remember, this is your life, your week, your schedule, your choices, and if something really matters, it belongs on the list, not after everything else. Let's bring Stoicism back into view. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Not to frighten you, but to focus you. Because most people don't run out of time. They run out of clarity. They fill their days reacting instead of intentionally designing. But intelligent people, they live with time like it's sacred. They build non-negotiables into their day. Quiet reading, reflection, walks, work that matters. Not because they're superheroes, but because they refuse to be servants to urgency. And that includes learning to say no. Because every yes is a no to something else. And if you say yes to everything, you silently say no to yourself. So the next time your lips form the words, I don't have time, pause. Ask yourself, is that true, or is it more comfortable to believe it's true? What have I been doing instead? And would my wiser self be proud of that choice? This isn't about guilt, it's about alignment. Because every day is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. And how you use your time, that's your ballot. So choose what matters. Name your priorities. Don't just schedule tasks, schedule truth. And if something truly matters, health, creativity, family, presence, don't say, I'll get to it. Say, this goes first. Because intelligent people don't let time manage them. They manage themselves with time as a mirror. And that's how the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Not all at once, but moment by moment. So now you've heard them. 6 simple phrases that don't sound cruel or reckless or offensive. And yet, when spoken carelessly, they quietly shrink our presence. They dull the sharpness of our minds. They distance us from others. And even more, from ourselves. Let's recall them. I already know that. That's just who I am. It's not my fault. They're just stupid. Whatever. I don't have time. At face value, they seem like harmless words. But beneath the surface, they reveal inner habits. Habits of defensiveness, rigidity, ego, withdrawal, blame, and disconnection. And here's the deeper truth. These aren't just phrases to avoid. They are signals, indicators. Each one is a flashlight shining on a blind spot, not to shame you, but to awaken you. Because intelligent people, the truly wise, not just the clever, don't seek to sound brilliant. They seek to become better. They practice self-silencing, not from fear, but from discernment. They trade quick replies for thoughtful reflection. They know that restraint is not weakness, it's strength refined. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be mute. It asks you to be measured, to become someone who speaks with clarity but listens with humility, who takes space but makes space for others, who wields words like tools, not weapons, and who understands that silence, when used wisely, is not the absence of voice, but the presence of inner mastery. So now the mirror turns to you. Which of these phrases have you caught yourself saying? Which one has become part of your script, without your permission? And more importantly, which one are you willing to let go of, so something wiser can take its place? It's not about changing overnight. It's about noticing. Noticing when you want to interrupt with, "I already know that." Noticing when you want to shut down with "whatever." Noticing when you want to protect your pride by blaming or withdrawing. And in those micro moments, you pause, you breathe, you choose differently. That's how intelligence grows. Not by knowing more, but by responding better. Every word is a decision. Every silence is a statement. And your voice, when rooted in calm, clarity, and compassion, has the power to influence, to heal, to lead. So speak with that in mind. Live with that in mind. And the world, or at least your corner of it, will begin to shift. If this video has helped you reflect, share it. Leave a comment. Which of these 6 phrases hit home the hardest? And if you want more philosophy, more depth, more reminders to become, not just smarter, but steadier, subscribe. This is the path we walk here. Quietly, daily, deliberately. Until next time, speak less, mean more, and let your wisdom whisper louder than the world's noise. Thank you for watching.